welcome to Makeup and Monarchies. If you are new here, my name is Tiffany. I am a hairstylist, cosmetologist, and lover of all things UK history, medieval history. There is an awful reflection in my glasses, so we're not gonna wear them. So this week, we are going to go over, we are gonna do the last video on Henry VIII alone. This is number whatever episode of my Henry VIII series and the wives. So we're gonna go over like the end of Henry's life and a little at the end of it before we do our fun facts. I'm gonna talk briefly about his struggles with infertility, I guess, and his like awful attitude at the end. I did create this makeup look while doing that. I don't know what the fuck is going on here, but as usual, if you would like to know what I used while filming this, I have listed all the items, all the makeup products I used down below. If you think that my channel is right for you, give me a subscribe and make sure to ring the bell so that you get notifications when I post or put a video out. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps me. And even leave a comment, even if it's just an emoji. Say for this one, we do a castle or maybe, I don't know, a red heart, whatever you want. With that being said, let's get into it. So when we left off in our last episode, we covered Anne of Cleves, but I'm gonna rewind a few weeks to when we were talking about Henry VIII in second episode of Henry VIII. We left off with him in July of 1540. So it is a little chilly today. We have had really good weather. Sorry, and my spray tans, or my tans wearing off of my hands, so apologies. Oh, weather's been nice lately. Now we have a dreary, raw, like cool day. Not a fan, but it is what it is. Spring in New England, it is what it is. We should be used to this by now. Okay, so Henry, we left off. He had just annulled the marriage with Anne of Cleves. She receives the title of the king's sister. He then marries again. Shockingly, sense my sarcasm, I have a lash hanging down, or a hair, I don't know. So now he is marrying his fifth wife, Catherine Howard, who's 17 years old, and he is gonna be like 50. Weird. Anywho, so Henry marries Catherine Howard. Marriage is going well, beginning. He's thrilled with her. I need to start doing my makeup. So he gave Catherine the lands that, now I'm gonna back up a second too. Remember that he married Catherine on the day that Cromwell was executed. So he gave Catherine all of Cromwell's lands as like her wedding gift, like he had been doing before. So that was how the queens like paid for their households, was through the rents and the money from the lands that they were given as gifts. Ugh, my face is a mess. We're shifting seasons too right now, so that always screws with my skin. Okay, he also gave her a ton of jewelry. What 17-year-old wouldn't be in love with that, right? 17 and you're getting lands that you're earning money on. Jewelry, like not jewelry you and I get. No, this is like heavy duty jewelry. So shortly after the marriage, Catherine began an affair with a courtier named Thomas Culpeper. She also ended up employing a former lover / fiance named Francis Derham. So do you sense some trouble that's gonna brew? Because I know I do. So I'm gonna back up a little bit just to like refresh what we talked about before. So remember when we talked about Reginald Pole, I referred to him as Reggie, and Margaret Pole. So when we left off Margaret was Margaret was imprisoned in the Tower of London with her grandson, Henry. And even though she was imprisoned, she was still taken care of very well. So at the time, her clothing was being made by the same tailors that were making the Queen's clothing. Now, reminder too, this is Henry's mother's cousin. So I think that would be like, again, the cousin thing confuses the holy shit out of me. So, cousin, I guess. Margaret was Henry's cousin, Henry VIII. So while she's in there, in the Tower, imprisoned, there was a plot that began in Yorkshire surrounding the discontent about the taxes on top of the like serious local economic issue. So come May 27th of 1541, Margaret is executed, which was brutal and done by an inexperienced executioner. We're too early in the video to go into the detail. I just want you to know it was awful. Also, I will do a episode just on her because I love her, and she had strength that was unbelievable. So she was the last like Plantagenet from the War of the Roses. So anywho, Margaret dies at her cousin's son's hands. So getting back to the marriage of Henry, while he was away, his privy council got wind that Catherine was having an affair with Francis Derham. So I just fucked that up, didn't I? I have eczema all in my, like it's kicking up. And again, I think it's the season shift. I'm over it. I've had it. My skin is itchy. So Cranmer is sent to investigate. He got evidence of her previous situation with Derham. I will go over that in next week's episode when we cover Catherine Howard. There's a whole thing behind that. If you know, you know. So he found out about the previous situation between them, and then he let the king know about it. At first, Henry didn't believe it, but then Derham confessed to it, and after another meeting, he finally believed it and like went nuts. I'll tell you though, like this man knew how to pick him, huh? And like led by people that he should not have been letting lead him. So Queen Catherine was questioned, and while she could have said they were previously engaged, which would have made her marriage to Henry invalid, she said she was forced into the relationship with Derham. So now Derham throws Culpeper under the bus about his relationship with Catherine. What a mess. So one of Catherine's ladies in waiting was Jane Boleyn, Lady Rochford, who was married to George Boleyn, which was Anne Boleyn's brother that got killed. So Jane gets questioned. She had been arranging meetings between Catherine and Culpeper. So the king found out about everything and sent Cranmer in to question her. So Cranmer, when he went in to question Catherine, was like going crazy. Again, put yourself, like I'm 40. So when I read and like do the research on all this, I like try and put myself in the shoes of whoever, like what's going on. She's 17. She's probably scared shitless right now and doesn't know what to do. Think back to when you were 17. You'd be fucking panicking too. Like I don't blame her. Like I bet she was going nuts. And not for nothing, I have a 20-year-old, almost 21-year-old who was 17. This one was probably going nuts. Anyways, so he found her like going crazy and like found it unsettling. So he had anything she could harm herself with in the room removed so that she didn't like hurt herself. Again, I get it. Now, Henry could have easily had this marriage annulled, easily, but he didn't. He could have, because she supposedly had been betrothed to somebody else, but he didn't do that. Again, well, I'm going to go into, like, at the end of this. Clearly, I've already had my thing written, so I know I'm going to go. But I'll go into why I think he didn't. He could have sent her to live in poverty and disgrace. She was still maintaining that Francis had forced her into their... How many minutes? I don't know if we're far enough to say, like, I'm not even getting paid for this. So she's still maintaining that Francis had forced her into a sexual relationship. Catherine was stripped of her title as queen on November 23rd of 1541. So Catherine is imprisoned in, it's spelled Syon Abbey. I'm going to assume it's Sion or Sion Abbey in Middlesex, which was formerly a convent, and she stayed there through the winter of 1541. All right. We're gonna use mystery. So last week I had combined, side note, I combined the Eyes to Mesmerize by Charlotte Tilbury, and I did the champagne and the rose gold. So then I was like, oh, I could do the chocolate bronze and the champagne. I bet you that'd be really pretty. So that's what we're gonna do today. Kind of like a smoky eye with a little bit of glitter to it. So I'm just using my MAC Mystery. What the hell did I use? Tete-a-tint, I think it's called, by MAC too. So I'm just gonna like kind of blur these out like on the edges so I have a little depth. This is called Mystery by, I'm using a Sigma Detail Blending Brush. E27. Sounds like a bingo call. Okay, so Durham and Culpeper were arraigned on December 1st of 1541 for high treason and were executed 9 days later. I'll go more into this next week's episode when we cover Catherine, because I just feel like that's part of Catherine's story, I mean, it is part of Henry's story, but it's more Catherine. Hold on, I can't talk when I do this. So Catherine spent the next 2 months like in limbo while Parliament was trying to decide what to do with her and the situation. So the Royal, I can't talk when I do this. The Royal Assent by Commission Act of 1541 was passed, which made it treason for a queen to not disclose her bedroom history with the king within 20 days of their marriage, or to incite someone to commit adultery with her. There was something in place prior to all of this. And I feel like it was Edward the First that did it, but I'm not quite sure, like off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure. However, it was because of, if you have a queen that is committing adultery, it will screw with the line of succession. So it was kind of there to like put a stop to that. So there was no question who the heir or heir apparent belonged to, as whoever their father was. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Words sometimes don't work with me. So she had no trial for this. On February 10th, she was brought, I shouldn't be pulling my eye, but I am so sorry. Don't do what I do. There we go. I just wanted to sneak in the corner there. I'm actually going to use a smaller brush to get right in there, just to pack that in a little bit. There we go. We're in business. February 10th, she was brought to the Tower, and her execution was scheduled for Monday, February 13th of 1542. On the scaffolding that morning, she held her composure and is said to have looked pale and scared, which again, at this point, she's probably almost 19. I mean, who wouldn't be? And she's a kid. I mean, she's 19, but she's a kid. There's more here, which we're going to cover next week in Catherine's episode. She was executed with an axe, and her lady-in-waiting, Lady Rochford, Jane Boleyn, was executed immediately after her. And both girls were buried in unmarked graves near St. Peter and Avicula, where Catherine's cousin, George and Anne, or cousins, George and Anne, and Lady Rochford's husband, George, were buried as well after their executions. So getting back to, I'm gonna rewind again, getting back to the issues between Charles V and Francis of France, Francis II of France. The alliance between them was short-lived. Charles and Henry's friendship improved, and Henry made a secret alliance with Charles and entered the Italian War. There was a planned invasion set for France, there was a planned invasion of France set for 1543. And in his prep for it, Henry tried to get rid of Scotland's threat from James V. However, James V died on December 15th of 1542 after losing the Battle of Solway Moss on November 24th. James left behind a 6-day-old baby girl named Mary, and she became the Queen of Scotland at 6 days old. Henry now wanted to join the countries by marrying his son, Edward, to the baby Queen Mary. Now, remember, he had previously tried to wed Mary's mother, Marie de Guise. Lord Arran, who was the Scottish regent at the time, because Mary was only a baby, agreed to the marriage in July of 1543. I am going to finish that sentence. But it was rejected by Scottish Parliament in December of 1543. So this ensued an 8-year war between England and Scotland called the Rough Wooing. So I'm gonna jump off and do my eyeliner, and then I'm gonna be back. I am gonna use these little pots of goodness, but I just want to put my liner on first, and then I can kind of like build out a little bit from that. I just want to see placement and where we go, and then just see where it takes me, kitten. Okay, I'm back. Shortly after Lord Arran agreed to the marriage between Prince Edward and Queen Mary, Henry himself got married again. This time it was to Catherine Parr. Catherine had been previously married and was wealthy. She was a reformer and would argue with Henry over religion. So I'm just scooping out a little bit of that. Probably should take my thumb out of the shirt. I'm just scooping that out a little bit and putting it in here. I'm going for more of like a darker brown, more brown look than like a lighter champagne. So that's why I'm adding this first. That's that. What brush are we using? Oh, it is a Sigma. Good. Then I'm going to go through with the champagne. Again, I'm just going to add it and then mix and see where I am and see if I want any more in there. So it's like paint. I actually like that. This looks beautiful. Again, I don't know why. I've had these for years and I've never thought to do this with them. It also makes it a little bit cooler, but it's pretty. Okay. So I tend to think when it comes to Catherine Parr, I think he liked like the banter with her. She was a smart woman and she could keep up with him. Catherine helped mend the relationship between Henry and his daughters and paved the way for, okay, I'm going to open because this is going to be really wet. So she paved the way for the Third Succession Act, which put the girls back into line after their little brother, Edward. So I'm again just patting this in and kind of, now this is why I waited on doing some stuff so I can see where my line is in the crease. Now I know I'm gonna go back in with that mystery color. I'm gonna grab it. And I'm gonna like blend that line out and then probably pull this out a little bit more. So I'm gonna go in on this side and just push this into the lid. Now I have nothing on my lid, like for shadow. I just have my MAC paint pot and Painterly. I'm just gonna go back in, get a little bit more and push that in. This is actually very, very pretty. And it comes out a little bit cooler than I thought it was going to. I didn't think thought it was gonna be a little bit more chocolatey, but this is like a stone look, I guess. So now I'm gonna take like the edge of this brush. Again, this is a Sigma eye shading brush, E55. So it's kind of rounded, which I like for this because it will work with the crease. I'm just gonna kind of push right in that edge. I'm making that solid line. I'm gonna come in on this side and do the same. Now, that has to be washed. Now I'm gonna go back in with Mystery. Again, this is a Sigma, this is the detail blending. So I'm gonna I know where I want it. I want it right here. And I'm gonna just blend this out. I can pull this out too, like so. I didn't mean to say that, but it makes sense, I guess. My touches or my strokes are light. Just so I'm not like bulldozing this color in there. And then just pull this, blending that out. It's a warm light and it always screws with me. I don't even know why I put it on. So I'm gonna pull that color up here and marry it to the bottom. I'm gonna pull again, marry to the bottom. And then if you feel like you need to blend that line out a little bit, like I do right now, I'm just gonna like really lightly go through and see how I'm adding that color, making that transition a little bit easier. There we go. That's better. Okay, done with that now. So Henry is feeling screwed by Scotland, and he sent an army up to Edinburgh and sacked the city on May 3rd of 1544. He ordered Edinburgh to be burned and St. Andrews be destroyed. Troops entered Edinburgh in Cannon's Gate. So the troops entered Edinburgh's Cannon Gate and set fire to the city. Edinburgh Castle was defended by cannons, and that commanded the Royal Mile. The Earl of Hereford, almost said Herefordshire, that's not what that says, didn't lay siege to the city, but burnt it. The houses within the suburbs and city walls were burnt, including Holyrood House and Abbey. The English ships were docked in Leith and were loaded with stolen items and took off along, my God, I really can't do two things at once, can I? Took off along with the captured ships Unicorn and Salamander. The army left by land and burned towns and villages along the way. So Henry was hesitant about invading France with Charles V, which upset him, which pissed off Charles, but he ended up invading anyways in June of 1544 in a two-way attack. Norfolk took Montreuil. I have a Montreal near me, so I bet you that's where that comes from. And Suffolk seized Boulogne. Henry ended up going into the invasion and took over Boulogne, and the city fell on September 18th of 1544. Charles wanted Paris seized, but Henry refused. I need to get going. Which pissed off Charles. Charles' campaign died out and made peace with France, but Henry was still left in the middle of the invasion. These boys, I can't. Ugh. So come February 1545, England had still been invading Scotland, and Scotland finally found victory at the Battle of Ancram Moor. This led to Scotland being included in the Treaty of Camp in June of 1546, and that concluded the Italian War that lasted from 1542 to 1546. So since his jousting accident of 1536, remember the one where he like almost died? Not like he almost did die. Henry's health took a rapid decline, and he didn't play sports like he did when he was younger, and he ate a lot of rich, like fatty foods, and basically just didn't take care of himself, which is just a shame. This didn't bode well for his health, and this didn't bode well for his future. Getting back to the invasion of France, France tried to invade England. Did that even come out? You know what? I have leftover. That's good. There's someone there. So France tried to invade England in the summer of 1545, but the French army only made it as far as the Isle of Wight before they were driven back in the Battle of the Solent. I feel like we did a darker look like this. Okay, powder time. With both countries, money was being spent. They decided to sign the Treaty of Camp again in July of 1546. So there was a lot in this, like, that went into this treaty. They secured Boulogne for Henry for 8 years, and he ended up selling it back to France for 2 million crowns, which is now, was 750,000 pounds. The money was needed for England since they had they were facing bankruptcy, and the money was so depleted. On the marriage front, Things were going well for a while. Catherine knew her role and played it well. In 1546, the Bishop of Winchester and Lord, this guy's a snake too. This Lord Wriothesley, snake, tried to turn the king on Catherine. So an arrest warrant was made for Catherine, and the rumor mill started churning out through Europe that Henry had eyes for her friend, the Duchess of Suffolk, Catherine Brandon, which was Henry's friend's wife, Charles Brandon. So Catherine saved her ass by reconciling with Henry and told him the only reason she argued with him over religion or about religion was to take his mind off of the suffering he was enduring because of his ulcer on his leg. Smart. She probably gaslit him a little bit too. The guards didn't know that this discussion had happened between the married couple or the royal couple and that things were like good between them now. So when they were walking together, the armed guards tried to arrest her, and I'm sure this didn't end well for them because I'm sure, knowing Henry like we do, I'm sure he threw nutty over it, which I mean rightfully so. But I am going to jump off and do my brows and lashes. I will be right. Oh my god. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I finished my eyes. I did use lashes today. We're getting my lashes are growing back. I went into an old bag of tricks of numerous lipsticks today, and I found some oldies that I haven't used. So I'm gonna use NYX lip liner. I did use in Prune, and then I'm going to use, I don't even know if this has a name, Lip Smacking Fun Colors, apparently. It's number 617. Boston represent. So as I put this on, we're gonna talk more about Henry. If I don't like this, we're gonna find out real quick. It's really milky. I didn't want that. Actually, that's not bad. Oh, I know why I don't use this. It tastes weird. Like you can smell something, you can taste it. Okay, so Henry died on January 28th of 1547 in his presence chamber at Whitehall Palace at the age of 55. While he probably died of natural causes, I can scooch out now. Scooch out. His weight probably had a huge impact on his death. Henry was brought to Windsor a week before his interment. Henry was brought by a wheeled wagon. I don't like this lipstick. It looks okay. I can't wait to take this off. It's like perfumey. Ugh. Sorry, NYX. I'm sorry. Does it smell? Yeah, it does. It's like floral, like perfumey. Anyways, he was wheeled by a wagon that was covered in black velvet and hung with heraldic banners. Heraldic, did I say that right? We know how I am. I'm just gonna put on, I'm just looking in here. I'm just gonna put on a little bit of Skin Dew. I seriously cannot wait to take this lipstick off. It doesn't look bad, but I'm just, per se, I'm just not feeling. I guess we're gonna use, no, we can't use that. That was, what the fuck? Oh, there it is. The chariot was drawn by 8 horses and ridden by 8 children. The lead coffin, oh, that is what I needed in life. Oh, yes. Skin Dew to the rescue. I'm just gonna come down a little bit to make those stand out a little bit more. Oh, yes. Work. So the lead coffin that he was carried in weighed more than half a ton on its own. There was an effigy on top, which was dressed in expensive robes and wore the imperial crown on its head. Through the streets, the poor were paid pray for the king, and it took 2 days to get from Whitehall to Windsor. The procession arrived at Windsor's St. George's Chapel on February 15th. Catherine Parr watched from the Queen's closet in the upper level of the chapel. Henry was buried with his 3rd wife, Jane Seymour, often referred to as his favorite queen. Personally, I don't think she was his favorite because he loved her the most. I think it's because she gave him a son and she did her job as he wanted, I guess. We'll say it that way. So Henry lies next to Jane in the choir of St. George's Chapel, but they do have a roommate in there with them, which is Charles I of England. Which would be his like great nephew. Yes. Like 3 or 4 greats in there. So I know I'm done my makeup, but we're not done. I'm going to go into, so why did Henry not have many surviving children? And why was he so mean and angry later in life? Well, newer studies have shown that it is likely that Henry had Cal-positive blood. What is that, you ask? Cal-positive blood means there are antibodies in the serum. I had to research this. I'm not a medical professional, so you too can do the research if you would like. If not, I did it for you. So, and I'm not, like I said, not a doctor, not a medical professional. So this is rare, and like 10% of the population has it. So basically what happens is when a mother who is Cal negative reproduces with a father that has Cal positive, the father is likely to pass the Cal negative or Cal positive blood to the embryo. The pregnancy would be normal if the embryo got the Cal negative blood, but if the embryo got the Cal positive blood, the mother's immune system would treat the Cal positive as a foreign body and develop anti-Cal that would attack and destroy the red blood cells of the developing embryo. So this would explain why many of the embryos, I'm trying to be medical, why many of the embryos didn't make it. Now, because Henry, more than likely, was Cal positive, he could have had McLeod syndrome. Genetically, people who are Cal positive, especially in men, are at a higher risk for McLeod syndrome. Okay, so what is that? This syndrome doesn't hit until middle age. Think like midlife crisis age. They will be fine their entire lives, and then the behavioral changes start. So had modern medicine been around in the 16th century, maybe Henry would have had some hope for a son and been more even keeled temper. Who knows, you know? Now, listen, I'm never going to deny that Henry did some really pretty shitty things, but I tend to wonder if he was so pained and like a sad person inside. Like, let's look at the facts. He was a mama's boy who lost his mom at a pretty young age. He was about 11, and it's said that if you suffer a traumatic event or a loss at a younger age, you can be emotionally stunted at that age. Then he has no baby boys, so I'm sure that was an ego blow. He was thrown into being an heir that when he was never intended to, and he wasn't prepped for it, so lost a wife the same way he lost a mother. And I actually feel really sad for him. I think maybe he just needed a hug or a cuddle. I just feel very sad. Like, when you look at the whole of it, right? You don't know what you don't know. So medically, he didn't know. They didn't know anything, you know, like what we do now. So it's something that could have been taken care of. But like, a lot of bad shit happened to him. Like, I just feel so sorry for him. I mean, obviously he did some shitty things, but hurt people sometimes. So I don't know. Anyways, so that concludes Henry VIII in this series. We have 2 more to go. It'll be Catherine Howard next, and then Catherine Parr. But let's get to the fun facts. So fun facts for Henry. He loved music and had more than 60 musicians on payroll. He was supposed to be buried in a lavish casket, but it wasn't completed by the time he died. So he was buried with Jane in St. George's Chapel in Windsor, like we just said. The kitchens at Hampton Court, this is crazy, Hampton Court Palace, served hundreds of meals a day. Supposedly he weighed around 400 pounds when he died, which he's a big boy. There were between 57,000 and 72,000 people executed during his reign, and he was the only king that ruled Belgium after capturing Tournai. I think that includes our Henry VIII episodes. Like I said, we have 2 more in the series. Next week is Catherine Howard and then Catherine Parr. And then we're gonna move north. So, per usual, everything I used is listed in the description box down below. If you wanna go check that out. If you liked this episode, please give it a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. And even leave a comment, because that really helps like push my videos out a little bit more. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do that, make sure that the bell is there so that you get notifications when I post a video. I think that's it for this episode. I hope that you have a great week, and I will see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.